We're recording. So,
Oh,
officially welcome everybody, those of you who've managed to join us live to this final masterclass in the series. But I do have a bonus for you. It's kind of like, but wait, but we're not finished yet. so, so there is a bonus session that follows on from the ninth wave with some beautiful, very valuable information from Yasmin Rooney, another excellent teacher who shares her perspective in aligning with the ninth wave and some of her teachings and understandings. So that'll be coming to you after we finish this class. And then, of course, we've got the session with Carl Cullerman to look forward to on the 2nd of February. So all very exciting. So I just want to welcome you all to this final masterclass where we're going to go into the understanding of and the details of the ninth wave. So
oh,
thank you all for being here. What I'd like to do before we go into this is just open it up for any comments or insights from you guys on what you may have taken from the program so far. I know that some of you still have to catch up with some of the older um, classes or some of the ones that we've already done. But if there's anything that you would like to share in respect of what you are able to take away from this at this moment in time, how it may have supported you, because we've got another whole journey that's going to start once this one ends.
wow. Oh, geez. Well, I could say the work that we're doing with this Master of Destiny is bringing up my shame, like working on, all the feelings and what it brings up and what happened to me as a kid and all that. It comes up, the bottom line is shame. I have
Okay.
so much shame. I still have some.
It's okay, Mary, because this is all part and parcel of, and I think this is an aspect of the understanding of this, is that this is a journey of unfolding. It is
Yeah.
not a one stop. Here you go. Here are the classes. Now you're aligned with the ninth wave. All done. It's not. This is an absolute journey of unfolding that we're going through. You've been doing a lot of that healing through the eighth wave, understanding and modalities. This is bringing us to an opportunity to deepen the letting go of all of those programs that have
Yeah.
actually been instilled as a consequence of the earlier waves. And when we begin to understand where that came from. I think you shared something with us in one of the other groups. I can't remember which it was. That you had a deeper understanding and a deeper compassion for your mom, who was the
Yes.
one that had actually perpetrated so much of the stuff that led to you feeling shame. So
Yes.
it's unraveling all of that. And if we can think about it, it's not just your mom and her parents and the ancestral
Yes.
lineages and all the programs that have been passed down. So it helps us to be
Yeah.
kind with ourselves.
Yeah. And that's what's helping me to know that, yeah, my mother had a mother that was doing that same awfulness to her whole family.
Yeah.
And of course, that means that she was abused also way back, in my ancestry. So I feel like I've broken the chain of abuse in my family. And now that I'm doing the bridge of, the ancestors into the future, I feel like I'm going to be helping get that, healing for my ancestries.
Well done.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Mary. So it's like, don't stop. Don't stop the beautiful work that you're doing internally, because the core of you, that which is present in alignment with the ninth wave, has no shame.
Yes.
At the core, that's who we are, that transparent beauty, that transparent light, the sort of that sees through all of that.
Yes.
So this is the process of us letting go, surrendering. That's a big word for me, and that's a big word that's associated with
Yeah.
this wave, is that surrender and letting go.
Yes.
So yeah, thank you for sharing, and don't give up. Honor yourself for the journey as we honor you.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you. So does anybody else have anything they'd like to share? Just excuse me, I've got a bit of an itch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't mind me. Yeah, okay, Liz. Thanks.
Yeah, can I say something?
Please
Can you hear me
do.
okay? Yeah. Yeah. First of all, Mary, well done. And, you know, you're also healing the ancestors of the future energetically. So that's brilliant. Obviously, I've only listened to the first episode of this amazing soap drama.
You've got so much excitement to wait to go through this.
But what I am suspecting is that I'm still connected into the energy of the series. Because what's happening for me is the opening of a deeper level of the heart, and that's not coming. That's coming with its very, very physical, skeletal, bone structure problems.
Yeah.
So that's been interesting. So it'd be quite interesting for me to catch up with what's been going on. Because, as I say, I suspect that I've already been connected in with the energy and doing the clearings.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that, Liz. And I think, you know, there's no mistake either that we are running the program now in alignment and in tandem with the massive shifts that are actually taking place. Sort of with the astrological celestial alignments, all of that stuff, which is impacting us as we are going through this. So while this has largely been a knowledge-based understanding and a knowledge-based program, we have still been connecting in with each and every one of those waves energetically as we've been exploring and going through it, because at the unconscious level, a lot of the programming and the patterning will have been coming up. And it's interesting that you say skeletal structures and issues, because it is everything, all of the programs that we have taken on board are stored within our bones. It's the foundation of our life. So we are shifting and changing right now through this entire journey, all of those old programs. So we're going to feel it in our bones and our joints. And it's only that now that's actually triggered a few extra things for me in respect of what I've been experiencing with bones and joints.
Wow, that's good to know.
Could I ask something, if it's appropriate?
Yeah.
I've got two clients who have got elderly mums that have been evil, in their words. But when I've sort of like tuned in to see what's going on, because not both these separate souls just refuse to leave.
Right.
Wow.
But one of the insights that I got is one is actually carrying a code in her bones, and it won't be released on death, it will be released on cremation. And I thought that's bizarre. But I just thought, oh, I'll just chuck it in here. And also somebody that's had a broken ankle, as she suddenly feels she's released a lot of karma.
Yes.
Through the break of the ankle.
Wow.
I understand that, because it's really interesting, because that's what I felt when I broke my ankle 10 years ago. And we judge ourselves for that because we're on this journey of healing and learning and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The insight that I got at the time was that the break was actually releasing something, but I didn't understand that with the depth of understanding now. So yes, I would say she's actually right with her intuition of what is happening with that. The other one I would say is really interesting, because if we parallel what's been happening on the planet with fires, volcanic eruptions, it is transformation through fire. So the cremation and the burning of the bones, the burning of the tissues, enables the release and transformation of all of that old patterning in order to release the codes. So it's an interesting piece of information. Symbolically, that's the way that I understand it. That's what I was seeing as you actually mentioned that.
Wow.
Okay, that's interesting.
The same as the land burns, and in order to assist new seeds to give birth to new life. So it's a similar concept. sort of the cremation enables the release of the new codes, the new seeds for moving forward. So the old has to burn. So there's a very interesting parallel. So thank you for bringing that up. You know, I think it's just perfect because it supports each and every one of us in our understanding of perhaps the application of this information and beginning to understand things at deeper and deeper levels, symbolically as well as physically. So yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to jump in quickly. My sister broke her wrist last night.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like really badly dislocated it and broke it, and just so interesting that we're talking about.
Yeah.
It's beyond coincidences. So that's really
that's
being giving me time to reflect on that, and
fantastic,
and to have that conversation with her. For me, this whole Masters of Destiny has given me so much calmness and clarity, because I kind of feel before I engaged in this that I was kind of stuck in this 8-wave sort of paradigm, and I was searching for sort of connectivity with women at the time. It was just this like I couldn't find it until I went online, and I found that sort of this women's circle and did so much healing with them, and that dissolved at perfect divine timing in itself. And then I guess preparing me for this next level of understanding. And I feel I just relate to both what all three of you have said. It's all like connected into my life, from childhood trauma to generational trauma, and I've been working on that for a long time. And Julie, just coming into the whole diamond light stuff when I first came into your group, really put me on that track. But I always seem to have got sort of progressed and then stuck, and progressed and then stuck. And to come here to understand this ninth wave has given me so much clarity, and just made a bigger picture into all these little parts of the jigsaw that I've had, and it's made this beautiful, exciting picture that is allowing me to heal myself and to come from a place of compassion and love for my children as well. I have 3, and to look at them and understand their journey, and how to speak to them better, because I talk about this stuff. They know all about multi-dimensional, all of it, and they're open to it, and we have sit and have conversations, and they engage, and I just want to put in those little seeds for them to figure out for themselves, because nobody has the answer, right?
Absolutely.
But I just want to plant. I plant lots of seeds, which I never had as a kid, because my parents were stuck in the seventh wave of reality. And I even try with my parents, and I just do my best. But so for me, it's given me a lot of clarity of all my journey so far, and I'm so excited to continue with it. And that's all.
That's wonderful, Charlotte. Thank you so much for sharing. That's it, I think, and it's a real appreciation for our journey, and it helps us, I think, each and every one of us, with this understanding, to be able to let go. Mm-hmm. It's let go of the judgment around anything. Let go of the struggles. Let go of the concept that we are not good enough. Let go of the shame. Let go of it's a process of just absolutely surrendering. The more deeply we can surrender, the more easily we move through the challenges and the events of life. Well, it just is. So let me deal with it, because where we get stuck, it's like that we go so far and then we seem to get stuck again. I think is where we forget to surrender to the flow, to surrender to the softness, to surrender to our hearts, you know, and instead we start to judge ourselves. It's the judging of ourselves that actually halts the journey, because I'm not good enough. I haven't done this. I don't know how to do this, or whatever it might be. When we stop in that moment, the magic will always happen. In that point of surrender, the magic happens and the flow
Yes, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So beautiful. We are a work in progress, and we are perfect. As a work in progress, we are being created even as we are creating. So there is that constant act of creation. So thank you, everybody, for your sharing, and thank you for being here. We all learn through all of this. So I really do appreciate your inputs. Okay, without further ado, let's launch into some of the ninth wave. I just need to put you guys onto mute. Oh dear, I've jumped ahead. Okay, so we are talking here about coming home. The entire context, the entire concept, the essence, the energy of the ninth wave is about coming home. And that is coming home to ourselves. Now, I don't think there are any of you who don't understand this, but if you're not sure about the concept of coming home to ourselves, then give me a shout and we'll explore it a little bit further. Because I've come across a few people recently, and I was really quite surprised to find out that they didn't understand, they couldn't relate to, and didn't grab this concept of coming home. You know, it's this. So just as a very quick reference, for me, it's about feeling comfortable in our own skin all the time, being comfortable with who we are, connecting with the truth of who we are inside. It's the internal journey. There is nothing out there. It's kind of like that, what you think of me is none of my business, because I'm at home here and I'm very comfortable, and I've made my home the way that the divine intended it to be. And I'm busy sort of decorating this room or redecorating that room internally, but I am home to myself. So we're constantly upgrading that home depending on how much we know. The ninth wave really does bring us home to a deeper aspect of self. So that's my sort of glossed over take on it. If any of you have anything that you would like to add or any questions, then just give us a shout in the chat room. I'm just going to open up that so that I can see what's going on. But yeah, I did find it fascinating to come across one or two people who went, I don't understand this coming home. Okay. Oh, I find that a bit strange. Okay, so the ninth wave and coming home bring us the keys. Thank you, Liz. That's beautiful. Being peaceful inside. Yes, it's being content. Coming home to it's that state of contentment within, that inner peace, inner calm, inner contentment. Not the bliss, ha, rah, rah, joy out there stuff. It's an inner contentment that we experience when we are at home with ourselves. So thank you. So what this session covers and is going to cover are the keys to aligning with the ninth wave and internal self-mastery. There's a couple of ideas at the end of the session which will actually keep you going until we start the Master's Journey program. So there's some things for you to look at. Bringing everything together for all of the ninth waves with a new level of coherence and understanding. So it really knits together, as we've been doing, and brings together all of the different threads, the different jigsaw puzzle pieces, so that we can see a greater, more expansive picture. We're going to cover the concepts of wholeness versus healing, where healing is actually still important and still relevant. It is more a language, if you like, that's almost associated with the eighth wave, where by the time we begin to resonate with the ninth wave, we are on an internal journey of wholeness. So it's accessing new realities and birthing the new earth. We'll have a look at that. It's a time of no filters and being able to see the perfection in the entire journey of humanity. Because, you know, there's many times we look back at the sixth and the seventh waves and everything that happened and all of the ancestral influences, etc., and we judge it because of the harm, because of the trauma, because of what we've had to heal as a consequence of all of this. But when with the big picture, we're able to see the perfection, because we could not be where we're at today without that. You can't go from kindergarten to university in one step. You've got to go through all of those growing pains through the interim periods of time. Redefining your life purpose and destiny. So it almost takes us beyond this, I need to find my purpose. So we're going to redefine that. Embracing polarity, critical thinking, mind and heart, which is really balancing all of those polarities and holding them. I've spoken about this before in respect to the paradoxes. So it's the opposites and being able to hold the opposites. Grooming and being the leaders of the future. What do we need to be in order to be a future leader? That leadership is where we tend to think of those out there because we follow leaders. We follow those who make themselves visible and so on. But it's not necessarily about that. When we become a leader of our own life, we embrace certain qualities that enable us to step into the future with greater confidence. We become the leader in the family because we're actually sowing new seeds, because we're actually providing different inputs, and we're modeling a different way of being. So being the leaders of the future, understanding the links between the ninth wave, cosmic events, and the Schumann resonances. And I've just thrown that in. I'm only going to cover it at the top level. I'm not going into detail because I've spent a lot of time on this over the last couple of years. But it really is just sort of scratching the surface to make those links for you. The links between Africa, the Maya, the ninth wave, and the re-emerging diamond light consciousness, because without a doubt, the re-emerging diamond light consciousness is the ninth wave. And it's the Maya that predicted it, the ancient stories of Africa. There's a couple of other things to bring in there, leading into and incorporating the sacred white animals, why they are becoming more evident and how we can work with them. So there's quite a bit that we're going to cover today, including the understandings of the ninth wave. So I hope this will prove to be just as enlightening and just as exciting for you. So let's just recap using this little chart. We can see that the activation as such of the ninth wave was initiated and felt by those who had the ability to respond to it, to be receptive to it, on March the 9th, 2011. That's the date that was given in respect of the Mayan calendar. It is the ninth and the ultimate wave. There are no more. You know, it's the 9 steps. It's the 9 of completion. There are no more evolutionary waves to follow this. Everything we need is already enfolded within all of the waves that have already been emanating from the cosmic tree and are an aspect of the world tree, the cosmic tree. The ninth wave has a very, very short duration in time, so it has a very high and fast frequency in respect of its wavelength. Bear in mind this is a subtle energy indication, but the duration and the wavelength of the ninth wave is only 18 days. So it's 18 days in the day and 18 days in the night, giving it a total cycle of 36 days. Mary says 2011 was when she saw her diamond for the first time. Now, isn't that interesting? I love these correlations and synchronicities. That's really beautiful, Mary. Thank you. So every 36 days, we go through a cycle of the ninth wave. So those that are in resonance with it can begin to track their lives and actions that they take in accordance with a very evident, precise cycle. So it's not like having to wait 300 years, you know, like one of the earlier waves, in order for a new daytime to appear so that we can begin to move forward. The ninth wave gives us and brings us lots of opportunities when we're in resonance with it to move in accordance with the upcycle, with the day, and then to recognize that in the night of the ninth wave that we have an opportunity to deepen our healing. So very high and fast. It is the wave, as we've spoken, of unification, which unifies polarities, and it actually begins to unify and bridge all of the previous waves. So it gives us an opportunity when we're in resonance with it to align and filter down all that we are learning so that we can influence the way in which previous waves have been manifest upon our planet, so that we can begin to adjust and correct the negative manifestations of the earlier waves because we understand them, and actually transmute or transform them into their positive attributes because we have a much bigger, higher level understanding of the purpose that they have served. So it's not about dismissing them, which I think a lot of people do. You know, that's in the past, or whatever it is, you actually dismiss some of the negativity. It's understanding the place that it has and utilizing the knowledge and the wisdom that we have to transmute and transform. So it is known, if we look at this diagram now, we can actually see the ninth wave is unfiltered. So this is this non-polarized unified wave, the same as the fifth wave was a non-polarized unified wave. However, the ninth wave brings with it not only the same connection with divine source that we had with the fifth wave, it brings with it, because of everything that has gone before, all of the knowledge and wisdom and development into this space that actually holds a great deal of complexity. So this was a simplified understanding, the primal unity consciousness of the fifth wave, and we are bridging that beautiful simplified understanding to be able to bring that into the complexity of our modern world, with the modern understanding in conjunction with all of the previous waves that are still active. Does that make sense? So it becomes a self-transforming approach to life. Now, self in this context does not deny the existence of the divine and the unity consciousness, because the self is with a capital S. It is the self in partnership, direct partnership with divine source that is able to then transform life. So it is a partnership approach in conjunction with the divine that actually facilitates that transformation. So it's not an ego self, it transcends all of those ego-based understandings within the ninth wave to enable us to facilitate transformation at a much higher, more expansive and complex level. So I hope that makes sense for you. But this is where I've been saying for a while, and now we can see it, that we are bridging the gap between the fifth wave and the ninth wave. And it is the fifth wavers and all of the indigenous peoples that have held that opening for us. And that's where the Khoisan of South Africa, for instance, are really so important, because they talk about the diamond consciousness. They are the placeholders. All of the original tribes are the placeholders of unity consciousness that have enabled us to take this journey so that we can bridge, honor, and recognize the entirety of the journey of humanity. So I've got the chat room up, so if there are any questions, just let me know. So let's have a look at the attributes, the general attributes of the ninth wave and some of the correlations that we might find associated with it. It was initiated in March 2011, as already mentioned, with a pre-wave in July 2010. Frequency, sorry, that's a typo error on the slide. That should read 36 days and not 26 days. So it's 18 days day, 18 days night, giving us 36-day cycle. The pre-wave in 2010 was, I found, really interesting. Liz is saying, I'm feeling the 9 months of pregnancy as well as the link to the tarot. Start, middle, end, and then that within the 9 as well. Oh, yes. Yeah, absolutely. It begins to make sense of all of the tools that we have used over the years that incorporate the wisdom, the ancient wisdom and understanding of the sacredness of the number 9. Yes. So 9 brings us to completion. But in the case of birth, for instance, it brings us to completion of a cycle, but it births a whole new life. It's birthing new life. And that's what we're doing with the ninth wave resonance at the moment, is that we, by attuning to it, are birthing new life upon the planet. Thanks for that, Liz. I think that's brilliant. 2010. So what I would suggest you guys do is also go back and have a look at what was happening in your life in 2010, because you'd probably find that there was a whole lot of change that started happening in 2010 that would have been indicative of you being affected by the resonance and the frequencies of the ninth wave, the pre-wave of the ninth wave. And I found this interesting because I hadn't realized that. When I go back to 2010, I go, wow, there was a whole lot of stuff coming up from the unconscious depths. I was actually sharing a house with a friend at that particular time in 2010. And there was wacky stuff beyond belief that was actually happening at that house. You know, black helicopters flying over. I was in crop circle country. There were orbs. There were psychic attacks that actually took me into a sense of power and actually forced surrender. I had a whole lot of stuff stripped away from me from a material perspective. It was absolutely fascinating going back and looking at the challenges of 2010, which enabled me to begin a new resonance, if you like, with, I didn't realize at the time, was the ninth wave. So it was like a new initiation of the journey with diamond consciousness. And Mary said my husband and my son died during that year. I mean, that is huge, Mary. Sort of massive loss in some way, shape, or form, because that had to happen in order for us to move on. We had to clear it out so that we could move forward on our journey. So yeah, I'd invite you to have a look, do some journaling. Check that out. 2010 into 2011, have a look at the changes in your life. Ninth wave is unfiltered. It is open to the light, complete left and right brain. So we see the opening of the left brain, which opens us up to what has been held, buried in the unconscious for all of this time. So again, it's a massive time of purging. So it's bringing all of that to light. It completes the destiny chart for humanity as a whole. So while we have this concept of completion, the job's not finished, because now we are creating and being created in tandem with it. So this is the realization of the destiny chart for humanity. This is where we need to go to, and where we actually, it's like a new stepping off point. And that's based on the Mayan calendrical system. It's about coming home versus going home. So this is, if we look back at sort of some of the programs and the thoughts and the experiences of the eighth wave, there's a lot that's out there, because the eighth wave opened up the right brain to the whole cosmic environment. It opened us, it took the filters off there. Everything was out there. It's out there. It's the galaxy. I'm from this star system and that star system, and take me home, beam me up, you know, kind of thing. It was all take me home. I don't belong here. I don't feel comfortable here. I don't feel safe here. Well, the ninth wave brings us back to ourselves. Yeah, Charlotte says, oh, I've been there. Yep, absolutely. Many times. So the ninth wave brings us back from that and says, this is about coming home. So we bring all of that insight, the cosmic understanding, the cosmic wisdom into our life, that we begin to live it in a different way from a different place. Now, things outside of us might not change that much externally, but our interaction with what is happening changes, because we're coming from a different place within us, the more deeply we align with the ninth wave. And then things do start rolling out. So it starts here. It's about quantum understandings and interconnectedness, where science catches up with the spiritual concepts and esoteric understandings. It is an initiation, interestingly, which is marked by geological as well as political unrest. So if we have a look at some of the things that were happening in the world around 2011, around the activation, the full activation of the ninth wave, we find that around about that, just prior to that, we had the Fukushima disaster, which was on the 11th of March. So around the same time, when the thing went up, spilled everything into, you know, sort of contaminated the oceans, massive radiation poisoning. This was like a massive wake up for humanity. So geological disturbances, the Arab Spring, where the Arab world actually started rising up and rebelling against oppression and authority, and it's not over yet. It's not over. One uprising does not resolve everything, but there are massive movements worldwide that have been initiated. The Occupy movement in Wall Street, and I've read things as well where people are saying, oh, fat lot of good that, don't you know, sort of what's happened. The bankers are still in place and they're still getting fat bonuses, and the average Joe's worse off than he ever was financially. It doesn't matter. The Occupy movement was initiated, and that in and of itself generated an awareness which is going to lead to actually bigger things, because the pressure is building for people to open up and step up into their sovereignty. Wars in Syria and Libya, exactly the same thing. initiated a wave of compassion, a wave of human awareness of the wrongness of wars. We had a lot of veterans beginning to speak up about the uselessness and what is happening in some of those war areas. So it's an initiation. It's the stepping off point, and there's going to be a lot more of what perceived unrest as people wake up. In fact, it's almost been said that this is a new awakening. The ninth wave, and strengthening the ninth wave is a new awakening. So those that thought they were awake, as in the eighth wave, as soon as the left brain opens and they begin to resonate with, as the ninth wave gets stronger because of those that are embodying it, as they wake up to that, it's going to be a case of they wake up again. So and it's so funny because I was using this kind of language years ago, as I was saying, it's about waking up and having the courage to stay awake and keep waking up. You know, it doesn't just happen once. It's an ongoing process as we expand with the understandings and the concepts. So this is it. So it's awakening after waves of new awakening. Unity, consciousness, and equality, unimagined possibilities. And this is one of the things that's so important, I think, to recognize and realize about the ninth wave, is that it's not predictive. It doesn't tell us exactly what we need to do, because that's not the concept of sovereignty and the concept of operating with divine will, is to tell us what to do. It is flowing in alignment with divine will so that the possibilities actually open up as we go along in that flow. And we cannot even conceive, because our human mind has been wired into all of the old programs, and the brain neurons are actually being restructured and reset. We can't even imagine the possibilities that will emerge as a consequence of this. So it's kind of like we're walking in the dark. Although we're walking in the light, I should say, because it is actually unfiltered light, but we're walking in the mystery. It's walking and trusting in the mystery and the unfolding of events as we go, and trusting each and every step of the way. It is transcending ego, and I say integrating ego to me is a better word than transcending ego, because integrating ego means that we understand, honor, and acknowledge the purpose that ego has served to protect us along the way through each of the previous waves. All of the defense mechanisms that we set up as a consequence served to protect us. So it's a case of not being in denial of the ego, which is very much an eighth wave concept and an eighth wave preferred activity. You know, it's just pretend the ego doesn't exist. It is full integration and acknowledgement and honoring of every single aspect of ourselves, because we bring it all into wholeness. And as we do that, that's a concept as well that's associated with diamond consciousness, because diamond consciousness bridges both. It bridges heaven and earth. It bridges the conscious and the unconscious, which is where the ego has been residing. It brings the unconscious to light, into the brilliance of the cosmic divine light. And it enables us to deepen our level of connectivity. Does that make sense? Yeah, you guys are all okay with that? So there's a lot that actually goes with this. There's still the work that we have been doing continues. It's just that it's going to continue in a different way, because we're actually resonating with a different alignment. So the ninth wave, and this is also something that is slightly different to the way that the eighth wave has perceived the new earth, because there is a perception that the new earth is, I'm going to use the expression again, it's all love, light, and unicorns, and everybody lives in peace and harmony, and everything is just wonderful, and there are no challenges. You know, it's just life is bliss. It's you know, this is the perception kind of thing. There are gifts and there are challenges of the ninth wave. It doesn't mean that we will not have challenges. It is us, we, that create the harmonization, because of the work that we do internally. We harmonize ourselves. The more we bring ourselves into wholeness, the greater the extent of the unification we're going to see external to ourselves. So gifts and challenges that we see. Gifts of the ninth wave are that it brings with it a new level of equality and personal sovereignty. So the capacity to be able to stabilize our core in association and to recognize our inner sovereignty. The word sovereignty is a word that has very much infiltrated and been bandied around as well within the eighth wave communities in New Age language. The concept of which I think is beginning to be understood at a deeper level by sections of society, because sovereignty is recognizing ourselves as spiritual royalty. And we are then the direct conduit to the divine. The way that this has been applied externally in our lives up until now is a reverence for external sovereignty, i.e. the embodied manifestation of royalty through monarchies. And they have been the intercedents between the human form and the divine. So every single royal family, that's how they see themselves. You know, they are decreed by divine will, kind of thing. So it strips that away, and it just so that we become personally connected with our sovereignty at a much deeper level. So it's very, very interesting to see what is happening with the British royal family at the moment, and the symbolic disconnection of like Harry and Meghan as senior royals and saying we don't want any part of this anymore. So very interesting to see those shifts and changes begin to take place. And how many people, if you actually had to do a review or a poll or whatever, would actually look again at the royal family and go, why do we have them? What is this about? Sort of self-appointed rulers. Anyway, so gifts of the ninth wave are also about I could wax lyrical about that for a while. It's also about healing, personal, collective, and planetary. So up until now, I think for many of us, we get onto the awakening journey, and it becomes about our own personal healing. We recognize how much of our own self actually requires that healing, that nourishment, that nurturing. We move beyond that concept of personal healing into collective and planetary healing, so that we have a deeper understanding of when we heal and do something for ourselves, that the ripple effect and the effect actually is in the collective and at a planetary and cosmic level, that it serves all. So what we do to expand our own sense of being and our own presence serves the whole. So it's not that we have to go around fixing the world or go around fixing everybody else as a healer. That healing actually begins here. And that kind of reminds me of the Ho'oponopono process, which is, I'm sorry, forgive me, thank you, I love you. That's that's all we need to do. And who are you saying it to? For the most part, we're actually saying it to ourselves. For every aspect of ourselves that has been disconnected with the divine. And that is an ancient fifth wave understanding and practice that has been carried down through generations. That I'm sorry, forgive me, thank you, I love you. The more we actually do that, the greater the ripple effect is out there. And I think there was a psychiatrist in Hawaii who actually, that's all he did. He was a doctor who was invited to a new facility, and that's all he did. And the number of psychiatric patients actually reduced. Those people were able to go away and live normal lives. So really powerful understandings here that healing is really our own removal of the layers and the boundaries and everything that's prevented us from restoring wholeness. Mary says, I worked with it for a while, it's great. Yeah, it's a very powerful, just a very simple phrase, but very powerful in the understanding. The gift of the ninth wave is about unification. It's unification of all aspects and fragments of ourselves. So ultimately, as I say, when that happens, we see the effect beginning to take place outside. So we let go of all of those concerns. We reclaim. It's all multidimensional fragments, cosmic fragments, spiritual, physical, all of it. We regain it all so that we become whole in all ways. Harmony in relationships, as well as reharmonizing the distribution of wealth. And this is a powerful one. I mentioned it in an earlier wave because it was a construct. The way that wealth is distributed and harnessed and grown and managed on this planet is a function of a program that has arisen out of the earlier sixth and seventh waves, mainly the seventh wave, and that is beginning to change. The stronger the ninth wave resonance becomes, the more extensive will be the reharmonization and understanding of true wealth upon this planet. And it's not about personal accumulation, it actually has to be about the redistribution. So timing, I don't know, but that's one of the gifts that the ninth wave actually brings, is this re-understanding and reharmonizing of wealth and all relationships. It's about a personal relationship with the divine, which goes hand in hand with the sovereignty that I've mentioned. It is about no limits. So there are no limits to the imaginable and unimaginable potential and possibilities that come with the ninth wave. We talk about the ninth wave, and it's probably safe to talk about this in the language of potentialities, because all of the potentials for restoring what we need to restore upon this planet are contained within the ninth wave. So now if you want to go back and work with the biohologram process that I gave you in the, I'm not sure if it was the sixth or the seventh wave, is now you can understand that all of the solutions to all of the problems or challenges that we perceive are held within the ninth wave. So we can use that as a methodology of connecting with the ninth wave and harnessing new ideas and concepts that we haven't even imagined to some of the challenges that actually exist. So we can consciously make that a conduit into the ninth wave using the holographic process that I gave you. So you might want to go back and revisit that so you can bring it forward. It's about revealing and correcting injustice and oppression. And we see a lot of the movement out there at the moment. There's a lot of awareness of the injustices of the world, whether it be in the Middle East, whether it be people, whether it be other species, animals, whether it be the ecosystems, how we have destroyed the injustice to Mother Nature. So there's a huge awareness that is building. And the Australian bushfires is one. It's like awakened sort of things in people's hearts worldwide. It's served humanity on a multitude of levels, because it is the injustices and the oppression of the ecosystem, the way that water is being diverted into corporations for mining, for various other uses, that's led to the drying up of the land, which has led to the rage of those bushfires right across the breadth of the country, because the land and the ground was dry, because the water balance has been altered by human intervention. That's one of the things. The other things that was just really interesting that's been brought up as those Australian fires is that the path of the fires actually maps almost identically the plans that are out there in the public eye for a high-speed railway system and 8 new smart cities covering the breadth of the continent of Australia. So it almost exactly maps the path of what they want to construct. So it almost implies that those fires were deliberately established in order to ultimately funnel humanity into the new smart cities that they plan on building, control, coverage. But people are starting to wise up. Look at the devastation that was caused, at the injustices that have actually been caused, but people are waking up, which is just absolutely amazing. So some very interesting things that I think we will see. We see it also with the pedophilia, the extent of the rings, and the same in California. Yeah, absolutely, Charlotte. Yeah, that there are links that are not so obvious in respect of the fires that took place in California. And we need to explore and ask the questions so that we can actually understand without getting caught up in the drama, having the awareness without getting hooked into the drama, so that we can present the bigger perspectives. Yeah, there's another thing that is actually coming to light more and more and more are the pedophile networks that are global, that run into the echelons of power, that involve all of the elites. And again, look at the timing of what we're seeing at the moment. Again, with the royal family. You know, I think to me that's just fascinating. It's like one on top of the other. You kind of go, okay. It's really interesting to observe this. So lots coming to light, huge amounts. So it's almost like a boil that has had all of the pus festering underneath, and it's a well, analogy, but it is. It's like that boil has to burst in order to release all of the stuff so that it can heal. Ninth wave is about ongoing activation of new potentialities and conscious choice. New potentials coming on stream and being realized all the time. We see it with some of the millennials that were born into the eighth wave that have accessed creative capacities. And some of those have actually already moved into a resonance with the ninth wave so that their application of these potentials are not orientated towards self. They have a far bigger application and respect of restoring harmony in the planet. You think about, cleaning up the plastic waste in the oceans. And that's the interesting thing. The technologies exist. Why they are not funded and put into practice on a global scale to help to restore balance on the planet, well, therein is a big question, because there are billions and billions and billions of investment money tied up in offshore accounts and everywhere else. You bring that back in, we've got all the funding we need to actually alleviate hunger, to actually restore and clean up the planet. So it's okay. It's happening. Declining power of the West and breaking down control structures. That is going to continue. It is already happening. People rising up and asking questions, not accepting what they're being given anymore, questioning. So there's a movement within which is actually going to continue to support the breaking down of control structures, reduction in competition in line with unity thinking. And this is interesting because it's at the same time as this, what we need to see is an increase in collaborative ventures. And that's where, moving on from this program, also the master's journey, I am working with Yas Rooney and possibly with one or two others to design hopefully a collaborative program that brings in a greater understanding from different perspectives, but that also engages us in community rather than it being a single initiative, because that is the way that we're going to be able to move forward more effectively, is by collaborating. So it's really difficult. I say it's difficult. It's because we haven't been programmed to do things that way, that from a bigger initiative perspective, it becomes more challenging to manage a collaborative venture. And I'm not talking about mine, I'm talking from a global perspective. That's where the corporations actually grew up, as a collaboration of people coming together and offering their labor services in order to be able to provide something to the world. But then the corporations and control structures took control of it. Essentially. So what we want is true collaboration, where there is an absolute honoring of each and every participant in the process. So corporations would need to change in accordance with that. Some are doing it. It is an era of creation and implementation of beneficial technologies, not just technology for the sake of technology, or technology masked or masquerading as beneficial that has an ulterior agenda associated with it, as in the human chips, and all of that. But it's truly assessing from a heart-based perspective, from a unity consciousness perspective, the beneficial nature of new technologies that are being brought into being. So it's not about fueling somebody's ego, like the Elon Musks of the world. Yeah, he's driving technology forward, but wow, what it's done is it's fueled that ego in a really, really big way. And one wonders now, and it's all about the first to create a commercial vehicle to take us into space. And a lot of that is ego-based. It is not humanitarian in that perspective. So the ninth wave begins to rebalance and address that. It's an era of fulfillment, and this is different to the whole concept of follow your bliss, follow your joy, which is an eighth wave understanding. It is rather an era of that inner contentment, that inner peace. We can only really experience that peace when we feel fulfilled with our lives, whatever that whatever it is that helps us to generate that fulfillment. So a lot of the eighth wave programming is still driving us forward because we think there is something that we are missing. We think there is something that we are not. It still takes us out there and away from the sovereignty of our core. So the more deeply we can go to access that, the more deeply fulfilled we are with our lives, no matter what our lives look like. There's no more out there driving to find our mission. Life is our mission. Our life is our life is our purpose. You know, and when we're in divine flow, how that unfolds is then determined by the guidance that's actually received, and it then becomes a much more peaceful, less driven process and a more flowing process. You can see, perhaps, you can feel the difference in that between the eighth wave and the ninth wave understanding of this. So the ninth wave is that era of personal fulfillment, heart transition, transcendence, embodiment of, oh, sorry, I'm just going to move this out of the way. Embodiment of divine self, that kind of speaks for itself. Greater interspecies connectivity, I love this one. Communication and cooperation, planetary and cosmic, because we have been seeing a lot more of this, a lot more people interested in communicating with animals. And then interspecies communication was something that the fifth wavers actually had down to a T. It was just an inherent aspect of their nature, because that interconnectedness and unification of the fields was an inherent aspect of who they are. So we're seeing a lot more of that emerging as we're moving into the ninth wave. And it's not just about interspecies on our planet, it's also interspecies from a galactic and cosmic perspective. So it's connectivity and communication so that we harmonize these relationships at all levels. Okay. Cooperation and service, we've mentioned the collaboration. What is it that serves the whole and actually support and assists me in feeling fulfilled? Self-transforming approach to life we've spoken about. It's about manifesting personal destiny as an aspect of divine plan. So your destiny, your personal destiny, your mission, your purpose is never separate from the divine plan. So alignment with the ninth wave brings us into greater harmony with the divine plan and with the perfection of all of the waves, and the capacity to reharmonize with that so that our destiny becomes a flow and a flowing process. Does that make sense, guys? Are you happy with that? So the massive, such huge, beautiful gifts that go along with the ninth wave. I just need a little. Wet the whistle, so to speak. So, I love this. Sorry, I just sort of threw this in because I found it. It was a quote from Tammy Simon of Sounds True. I don't know if you guys are familiar. I'm sure most of you have come across the Sounds True network from time to time. They do sort of put out a lot of work by respected spiritual teachers. And I thought this was so interesting. Tammy Simon said, I had an allergy. This is fairly recent. She says, I had an allergy to the word manifestation. And I thought, yeah, I get that one. And it's a niggle that sometimes you just can't put a finger on, but you've got to trust the niggle until the understanding goes, oh, Charlotte, you've got to go. Oh, we're so sorry. We're going to miss you. Happy birthday to your son. Have a wonderful celebration and look forward to connecting with you for the follow-ups. Okay. God bless. So she says, I associated it with people using spiritual principles to satisfy egoic drives. Conscious manifestation is wholly different. The focus is not on getting what you want and feel that you lack, but instead on creating from a sense of sufficiency and learning how to become an instrument of the unlimited creative power of the universe. And that, to me, I thought was really beautiful, because that brings a different understanding of the concept of manifestation. It lifts it out of the eighth wave understanding and brings it into a ninth wave concept associated with a new level of consciousness. So manifestation is not about getting what we want. It is about creating as an instrument of the divine flow. So it is perfectly a ninth wave aligned concept, and associated with the true and the truth of diamond consciousness. And there's a lot, you see, people are beginning to connect with it. The understanding of manifestation almost had to go through the iteration that it has as an aspect of the eighth wave through movies like The Secret and the Law of Attraction and in order for us to get to the higher understanding of it, so that people could understand that there were forces at play beyond our visible universe, if you like, so that we could begin to take it forward. Excuse me, I've got a bit of a runny nose. So everything is actually perfect. So we might look back and sort of deride those who are still associating manifestation with trying to get what they want, because it's not going to happen that way. I was talking to Yaz Rooney, the other teacher that I was talking about. I was talking to her recently, and we just laughed because she was just saying, "I know it's never going to work. It doesn't work, does it?" She says, if I could manifest what I want, she says, the one thing in my life that I wanted more than anything was my family. I loved them. I adored them. They were absolutely wonderful. And then her son was killed at the age of 22. She said, I didn't, or sorry, 24. She said, I didn't get what I wanted. And I focused all of my energy, attention on what I thought I wanted. And manifestation does not work that way. It's always working in association with the becoming an instrument and being an instrument of the divine source. Okay, so challenges of the ninth wave, of which there are. You see, many people, when they connect with this concept of New Earth, for instance, this New Earth is, it's kind of a ninth wave concept with an eighth wave understanding, as it's still done with an eighth wave understanding. So it does bring with us, the ninth wave itself does bring with it some challenges that we need to be aware of. So the old understandings are love, light, and bliss, everything's going to happen wonderfully, and we're just going to all suddenly be at peace and love one another. No. So the challenges are that there are unrealistic expectations that have been established as a consequence of eighth wave alignments and that unlimited cosmic connection. For example, there's been a thing around the internet, and the minute I saw it, I kind of rolled my eyes and I went, the event. You might have seen it. The event. It's a wave that's coming. It's a something that's coming. It's an event, and it's going to wash across the planet, and everybody's going to ascend at the same time. It's akin to the biblical rapture. It's taking that same concept and refueling it, if you like, in a different wave. This boom, you know, like a cosmic boom that's going to be like a wave that rushes over the planet and everything changes in an instant. And a one-season world of bliss. That's the understanding that those who are in the eighth wave, but they're touching something in the ninth wave. They've got something that they're touching, but they're interpreting it in a different way. So it's leading to, and some people are teaching, unrealistic expectations, because you know it's like you don't have to do anything. It's all going to be done for you. No, that's not going to happen, because we are creating the new earth, and everything that goes along with it. And this whole concept of the event horizon, the waves, etc., we can see that there is some truth in that connectivity, that they've connected with something, they've connected with these waves. However, we need the understanding in order to support this. So yes, this one season world of bliss. It's kind of like, we don't live in a one season world, and a lot of the eighth wave teachings at the moment seem to promulgate that unreachable goal of a one season world of bliss. You know, we don't live in a one season world. We live in a world where seasons are continually changing, where the climate is continually changing, things continually change, because we are moving through the universe and we are evolving and growing all the time. So the one thing that's constant is change. So yeah, that's not going to happen. Small percentage. One of the challenges is that there is such a small percentage of the population at the moment that are resonating with it. There's approximately only 1%. So we need to recognize that. Those of you who have had an attraction to this program will be those of you who are connecting with the ninth wave. And even we are currently unfolding ourselves in accordance with and building our resonance with the ninth wave. So it really needs to build up in strength and momentum, because the stronger that resonance becomes, the more easily others will be able to tap into it. I think it is already starting to increase. But there's a depth of understanding that really needs to go with it. There's an educational process that needs to go along with this adjustment. Challenges, it requires internal integration of all prior waves as well as shadow aspects and archetypes. Now, this whole concept of archetypes, I want to just mention to you guys is that there is a bonus session on the webpage where all of the videos are hosted. There's one up there at the moment, and that was a bonus session where Geraldine Sheehy, who was one of our participants, shared with us some of her valuable wisdom in respect of archetypes, and especially the foundation for archetypes that can actually hijack our journey. And Geraldine is really amazing. That was her gift, is in respect of understanding these archetypes. So I would recommend that you go and have a look at the bonus session that was recorded along with the first time I went through the Masters of Destiny program with the first group. Very, very well worth watching. But all of those things need to be integrated within. They're all different ways of understanding our shadow aspects, and of bringing our own being into wholeness. And that is an incredible job. You know, I think I've said to you guys before, is really honor yourselves for the journey that you've taken, because being born into the seventh wave means that we had a lot of unraveling and a lot of healing and coming together that we needed to do. So there's a lot of work involved. We are dealing with the discomfort of reawakening and seeing fully all of the polarities and the accompanying emotional states of grief, loss, disbelief, and letting go of earlier wave ideas and ideals. Now, what we see is, because the ego is still very, very prominent and present with all of the earlier waves, including the eighth wave, because the eighth wave, remember, is polarized. It has the right brain open to the light, and it has the left brain, which is the conduit or doorway into the ego, and that is in darkness. So the ego is hidden in the unconscious with the eighth wave. And with the reawakening and the opening up, everything is actually brought to light, and we need to reawaken at another level and see how we bought into some of the polarized teachings and some of the wackier teachings along the way. And in fact, if we can learn to laugh at ourselves and go, oh my God, wasn't that so funny that I actually believed that at that stage? The more easily we can do that, the more easy it becomes to deal with the discomfort. For many people, the ego wants to hold onto those ideas and ideals because they have become part of the narrative. And this applies to a great many of the spiritual teachers that are out there who have bought into the programs. And I had a case just in the last 2 weeks, and it was really quite interesting. You guys know me in respect of the whole Schumann resonance story. You know, it sort of like became a drum that I was actually beating on. And I eventually let go. I thought it's pointless because people don't want to listen, as Rachel pointed out this week. There was one very advanced spiritual teacher who's got a huge following, and this was earlier last year sometime. And when I pointed out that her narrative about the Schumann resonances was wrong, accused me of spreading misinformation. And kind of like, you need to be careful about what you're teaching people, and about, being accused of working for the dark forces. And it really becomes quite laughable and almost sad in a way, because that's the extent to which some of those teachers actually want to hold on to their narrative. And there was another very, very well-known teacher who's also got a huge following, who's decided that the Schumann resonances was something that she wanted to hold on to. And I started reading through some of her stuff, and this was in the last week. Reading through some of her stuff, and I went, there we go. She's got an entire narrative built around a misunderstanding that the Schumann resonances hit 100 hertz. So I wrote a little response on her blog, and I said, and I put a couple of quotes up there, and I said, this is the truth of it, and here's the video, and blah, blah, blah. They have never, they will never hit 100 hertz. It's physical impossibility because that's not the way that they work, and blah, 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 wrote it down. She didn't bother to post my comment. She didn't even acknowledge it. And there were loads of other comments posted on her blog because she's got a good following. Refused to even acknowledge the comment. And I was just like, there's only so much you can do. I kind of let it go. But that is the kind of thing that we're going to see a lot of, because as the eighth wavers begin to reawaken, so it's kind of like they'll awaken to something, but they'll go back and try and fit it into the paradigm of their original teaching. So there's a lot of this going on at the moment, and that's also why there are so few people resonating at the ninth wave level, because they're so afraid of letting go. Moving from passivity, which is the eighth wave, to a balance of receptivity and heart-based action. Some of the practices, some of the teachings that were promulgated as a consequence of the eighth wave were also about, you don't really have to do anything, you just really need to think about it, and it's denial of the ego self, it's not being fully present in the physical body, etc. So there's a degree of passivity around many of the eighth wave teachings, whereas here, with the ninth wave, we're talking about being receptive to the holograms, the mind holograms that are being delivered as a consequence of the ninth wave, and then translating that through the heart into heart-based action. It almost becomes what Andrew Harvey calls sacred activism. So it's activism and action based on a heart-based depth of contact with the divine. It's about acceptance and allowance, which is not the same as denial. There's a lot of denial, which is an aspect of the eighth wave understanding, because of this left brain conduit in darkness and the unconscious. Whereas when we open that, we understand that the only way through is surrender and accepting. When we accept what is happening, our total acceptance of everything in our lives, and allowing everything to be, then it actually begins to change. Otherwise, we set up resistance patterns. So big difference, and I would ask you to sort of sit with that so that you begin to reconcile those concepts within your own being. It's about grounding and embodying the ninth wave holograms, and that's no mean feat, because that requires the totality of integration within ourselves in order to ground the unfolding potential of the ninth wave holograms, whatever the ninth wave is delivering. So we're only touching upon it at the moment. So this is about, as mentioned in that previous comment, consciously manifesting as opposed to the sense of entitlement. So it's not about just because we are human and we are here, we feel entitled to whatever it might be. We are able to consciously manifest without necessarily feeling entitled to it, just simply because we are human on this planet. And that's very much millennial, eighth wave. There's a lot of entitlement that comes in there. It's even in the teachings, you know, by your birthright, you're entitled to untold wealth and wisdom and blah, 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 by virtue of the fact that you've been born upon this planet. It's your birthright. Old teachings. So we are shifting and changing that. And that's a challenge. Challenge to balance intuitive trust and questioning, which is the right-left balance. It's not always easy, because at what point do you go into analysis paralysis as opposed to just questioning and using that capacity for discernment? So differences at play there. It's fine-tuning that capacity to trust our intuition together with our critical thinking processes. It's allowing the feminine energy and heart to lead, and that's a challenge because we automatically want to go into the head. We allow it to lead, but we do it in partnership with the left brain. It is not in isolation, it is in partnership with, but the heart has to lead self-transformation. So it's not anybody out there who's going to provide us with what we need. It is that transformation internally and from within. It's one of the challenges is also that I think as part of the eighth wave, there has been a propensity to look for the easy way to do things. If it's not easy and it's not fun, don't do it. And that's led to this, you know, sort of one season world of ease and bliss and balance and joy and blah, blah, blah. So if it's not easy, don't do it. The truth of it is that when we accept and let go, there is an ease of flow that actually happens. It does not mean that there will not be obstacles and challenges along the way. So the challenge is to understand this at a deeper and deeper level, and that it bringing something into being and grounding and integrating it through our body, as in these ninth wave holograms, is not an easy task, and it hasn't been up until now. But we accept that it's not easy, and then we're able to flow and work through the challenges much more effectively. It is about stepping out of the boundaries of the box. That really speaks for itself. So it's kind of let go of all of those preconceived ideas, let go of the boundaries, let go of the ideas that have held us captive. Wholeness versus healing. That is also something that really speaks for itself. It's not that we need to be fixed. So we often think about healing from the perspective of the fact that we are fixing something, whereas every healing intervention is about restoring wholeness, and it's not about fixing anything. So it's restoring to wholeness. So it's becoming familiar with the concept of surrender and true power, because the only way we access our true power is through surrendering to it. Then the real power actually begins to build within us. And that requires deep letting go and deep trust. So there are lots of challenges associated with our capacity and ability to resonate with the holograms of the ninth wave. So yeah, the work's not done. It's only just really starting at a much deeper level than what we are familiar with. So I hope you guys have got that. Any questions at all on that and anything that's in there? Or are you guys okay with that? Okay, so I've got a couple of quotes. A bit of silence in the chat room. And I just love these. I threw them in because they were so in alignment with the ninth wave and the ninth wave understanding. So that wisdom is out there. The eternal wisdom is there, and it's already existed. And I just absolutely love these when I saw them. So the first one, everything that needs to be said has already been said. But since no one was listening, everything must be said again. And that's that universal concept that there is nothing new that exists in the universe. Everything that exists has already existed. So the 9 waves have always been in existence, but nobody could access them. We couldn't access them. We had to go on this journey. So this really embodies so much of what I've been through on this journey, and you guys have likely found something similar as well. Is that when I started talking about the diamond and diamond consciousness, I was like talking, and nobody was listening. That's what it felt like. Nobody was listening. But what it is that this is the time now to actually re-say it all. So everything is actually being said again. So whatever we understand from the fifth wave is actually being reformatted and understood at a completely different level. So I love that. You might want to sort of take these quotes. Andre Gide, that's a guy that I don't know how you pronounce his surname, but I thought that was great. You guys also know that I have a particular association and favor with the word paradox, because I love talking about spiritual paradoxes. It's almost like holding the opposites of something, because both are true. Instead of things being an either or polarity, it is a both and, which gives us a paradox in respect of what's right. Paradox and confusion are the guardians of truth. So you actually hold the opposing views in balance and harmony, because they are both true. So all is true. But that can cause confusion if we're not able to hold that space within us that is able to acknowledge both as true. So paradox and confusion, because so you might find yourself in a space of confusion when you're looking at the paradoxes. They are guardians of the truth. Very deep quote. Wisdom is knowing I am nothing, no thing. Love is knowing I am everything. And between the two, my life flows. And I thought that's also really beautiful, because we are ultimately, at the very core of our being, we are no thing. There's nothing. We are energy that's manifest through physical form. Love is then being able to acknowledge that we are everything. We are the stars. We are the universe. We are Gaia, the planet. We are everybody else and every other life form on the planet. And between those two understandings, my life flows. So I think that's really beautiful. That's part of the paradox. It's holding the balance between the two. And it's okay to not have the answer yet. Continue your journey and trust the process. I think these are all concepts and quotes that just so beautifully incorporate the ninth wave understandings and resonance. So I just wanted to share those with you. And then we've got this one, which is, it's a paradox. Here we go, the confusion between the two. This is from the Buddha. It is your mind that creates the world. It is the world that creates your mind. Now, I mean, that's the Buddha. And you might look at that and go, what? So it's our mind and the way that we interpret the divine holograms that are actually downloaded with each of the waves actually then determines our behaviors and actions out in the world, which become part and parcel of the creation. It is the world, so what is created collectively out there in the world actually becomes part of the programming that determines how we interpret the downloads from universal mind. So we've got this constant flow between the two. And the clearer our mind becomes, the clearer our connection with the ninth wave and the holograms that are actually downloaded. It's a perfect paradox, but it's the perfect symbolism for understanding growth, because then we begin to see the shift in what is created out there in the world. The clearer we are, the more we are a clear conduit for those resonances and those energies. The more expansive and harmonized what is created out there in the world becomes. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, so just some things for you to ponder. You can go back on this and just really begin to integrate it at a deeper level. Wholeness versus healing. I know that you guys would have an inherent understanding of this. So these are just two definitions that I actually found and came out with just to sort of deepen the connection with it. Healing is defined as curing or curative, restorative, soothing. The act or process of making or becoming whole, making whole, sound, or well. So it's part of the journey. It's an intervention in the process of becoming whole. And that's what we've been talking about. Healing is not about fixing. It is an intervention on the journey of becoming whole. Wholeness is a quality or state of being. It's an internal state of being, which is then entire or sound. It is solid. It is integrated. It is entireness or entirety. Totality. So we have the totality of the universe, of the understanding of the divine within us. It's completeness. Ninth wave, the quality of something that's considered as a whole. Therefore, it is an internal state of being. So healing is an intervention in the process of achieving the internal state of being of wholeness. So it again redefines the relationship between the two, so that we can perhaps view it ourselves and also communicate with our clients in a different way. And give them and help to sow the seeds of that understanding for them. So that is what we are doing. So just because the ninth wave incorporates wholeness does not deny the capacity for healing. It's just the way that we have been taught and understood the healing journey up until now in eighth wave language that I think is being adjusted through this. So any comments, you just let me know. The ninth wave and cosmic events. So I just wanted to highlight some of this relationship between the activities of the sun and the cosmos and the ninth wave and the relevance, because we do see that there is essentially a delivery of cosmic information that has been stepping up in intensity over recent years, and it is associated with the cycles of the sun, which is part and parcel. The sun is not just our solar system, it's connected with the rest of the cosmos, with the galaxy and so on and so forth. So essentially we have, in the same way that we have the waves, things exist in cycles, and our sun and its activity has been monitored in respect of its cycles for quite a few hundred years now. It's very evidence that the sun is active in cycles of 11 years, 11 stroke 22 years. So we will have an 11-year peak and an 11-year down. So if you look at this little graph down here, let's just have a look at the cycles of the sun and the solar cycle. Sorry, I'm trying to move this out of the way. You can see that you have sort of 1985 to 1996. You have the peak upward cycle of the sun's activity, and then you kick off a new cycle, but the totality from beginning to a peak of a new cycle is like 22 years. So cycle 22 or cycle 23. There's 22 years of cycling around the cycles of the sun. So from that peak to the next one is 11 years. From the low minimum to the next lower minimum is 11 years. So that is 22 years that is observed as a cycle of the sun. So I hope that makes sense. Sorry. So what we see and what they have measured is that there is a solar maximum and a solar minimum within those cycles, within each cycle. Solar maximum means that there is more activity on the sun and more solar flares. So during these peak cycles, there's lots of sunspots, there's lots of coronal mass ejections, lots of activity on the sun. So there's lots of solar flares and there's lots of radiation from the sun. Those tend to be more X-rays and highly charged ionizing particles that are flung towards the Earth. So they impact on the Earth's magnetic field, and we get these influxes of charged particles from the sun, different charged particles. Then it hits a quiet period, which is the minimum, when nothing much happens. And during the minimum period, there is less solar activity. But what we find is that when the sun is active, there are what are called solar winds. And the solar winds, which are streams of charged particles, act as a buffer to cosmic radiation. So it buffers us from the more extreme radiation from deeper in space. So the sun acts as a go-between. When the sun is quiet, there are reduced solar winds, there are reduced coronal mass ejections, reduced activity, reduced sunspots. The sun is quiet. There's no sunspots on the surface of the sun. So what it does is it actually opens up the way for the Earth to receive more cosmic radiation, more intense waves. And those intense waves include things like gamma radiation from the cosmos. Gamma radiation is what is known to actually cause and precipitate DNA mutations on the planet. So with the cosmic radiation, highly charged and very impactful in respect of DNA changes that can take place. Also, with this cosmic radiation, it has been noted, as in addition to the DNA changing effects, that there's a higher incidence of heart attacks with that. So people who are still locked into controlling belief systems that have not had the capacity to open up their heart would actually suffer more often than not with heart attacks. Okay, so it actually triggers that. Also, the solar cycles affect climate and geophysical stability. So when there are massive shifts and changes in geophysical or in the sun, we actually do see massive coronal mass ejections, influx of particles, influx of cosmic radiation. the earth shakes up. Okay, so there's volcanoes and earthquakes and things that are at the surface level of the earth. The earth's magnetic shielding is also weakening, which also means that there is a greater sensitivity upon the planet to cosmic and solar events, which means that there is a buildup of charge in the atmosphere, which triggers lightning, which is a discharge. If it builds up in the upper atmosphere, that charge, that electrical charge, has to go somewhere. And it goes somewhere by being earthed through electrical discharge, which is lightning. It triggers lightning. It's a discharge and an earthing of what's been accumulating in the upper atmosphere. What the lightning does is it triggers the Schumann resonances. So just because there is more lightning does not mean that there is a change in frequency of the Schumann resonances. It simply means that there's a change in intensity because there's a buildup of charge in the atmosphere. So there is an indication of change that is taking place, but it's just not the narrative that is actually being spun. But what I wanted to share with you here is you can actually see. So we had a peak solar cycle in the 1990s. Lots of sunspots, lots of activity on the sun. We had a solar cycle 23, which followed that one between 1996 and 2010, was peaked at a lower level. So there were fewer sunspots, there was less activity on the sun during that cycle. What has been even more intense is during this current cycle, solar cycle 24, which brings us right up here to 2020, where this gives us an indication of sunspot numbers. So the actual number of sunspots on the sun during this last cycle have been very minimal, and this is referred to as a grand minimum on the sun. And when there is a grand minimum, previous grand minimums, solar minimums have preceded rapid cooling of the planet. So there is an initial heating up of the planet or heating up of the atmosphere because there is less in the way of sunspots, more cosmic radiation, more charge, higher intensity charge from space. Planet is actually heating up with the gamma radiation. What was I going to say? I lost my train of thought there. I don't know if that's making sense for you guys, but it's actually heating up the planet temporarily. What this precedes is a massive shakeup and discharge of energy and a shifting upon the planet and a sudden cooling that then takes place because the sun becomes quieter. It is less intense. Therefore, there is less heat that is actually being received from the sun. So ultimately, the climate change effect that we're actually seeing on the planet is a consequence of the solar cycles and not human anthropomorphic global warming or climate change that everybody's going absolutely rah-rah and going crazy about. So there's a lot of studying that could be done on the sun. I noticed that in every single one of the emotive and emotionally led climate debates, there is very little mention of the activity of the sun. Those scientists that are speaking about the sun are actually completely ignored, and it's all put down to carbon and anthropomorphic global warming, which is just completely nuts. But so it just kind of says there is a bigger picture here, but there is a relationship between geophysical activity. If we go back here, where the sun was actually at the sunspots were actually very low, the sun was at the minimum part of its cycle. 2010 into 2011 was where the Fukushima earthquake happened with that devastation. High intensity cosmic rays, which they started measuring from 2014. And I've seen that of 2013, and I've seen them steadily building up. So there was a buildup of cosmic rays even back then, that was starting to concern scientists. So there was a lot of intense energy that the planet was receiving once the sun went really quiet down here, and that initiated, it was part and parcel of the timing of the activation of the ninth wave. So it's kind of like the ninth wave was coming in with an associated cosmic activity. So there was a change that actually went with it. So I just really wanted to highlight that. I don't know if that's too much science for you. That can be explored in more in depth with further webinars. I don't know if you've got any questions with that. So what has been particularly interesting for me in respect of the journey, Mary says, nope, I love it. Thank you. Okay, that's really great. Has been this whole concept of the sacred white animals. Now again, we get this link back from the ninth wave and what has been happening on the planet and the fifth wave understandings, because all of the indigenous peoples had legends and associations and a reverence for these white animals that they were aware of. Their prophecies and their myths encompassed and were built around these sacred white animals. We see it from the Hopi and the sacred white buffalo. In Africa, as Liz would know, we have the verbal mythology carried forward with the white lions. We have the Celtic traditions in the north, where you have the white stag, and certain fields, forests, etc., were conserved because of the white stag. The Aboriginals, because we have Mugalu, the white whale, who's actually been observed in the waters around Australia, now being observed as far as Hawaii. But the indigenous peoples have all had these associations and this air of reverence that's been associated with these white animals. So they are referred to with the prefix of sacred white animals because of the reverence that they've always been held within. And they are a marker, they are a sign of the times, they're an absolute indicator of this progression of the ninth wave consciousness. The timing of their appearance on the planet and the build-up in occurrence of these white animals across a vast swathe of species marks the transition points into the ninth wave of consciousness, or diamond consciousness. And in fact, it's just really interesting finding out the timing of these, because I always inherently felt and associated the presence of these animals with the transparency of what diamond consciousness actually represents. Seeing the association of the timing with the ninth wave and building in, going back to the fifth wave and the indigenous peoples, it all starts to make so much more sense. So I just want to piece a few things together for you in respect of these animals here. So most of them were prophesied by the fifth wave indigenous peoples, wherever they were on the planet, white buffalo, calf woman, etc. In 1994, which was sort of between the pre-wave and the initiation of the eighth wave, which opened us up to a cosmic perspective. So 1994, the first white buffalo calf since 1933 was born. Prior to 1933, I don't think there'd been a white buffalo calf before the ancient Hopi mythologies prophesied the return of the white buffalo calf and the white buffalo calf woman. So 1994 was like smack in the middle of the rising of the eighth wave and moving into that. So white buffalo calf was born then. And then I think it became very prominent in the early 2000s. There have been a number of white buffalo calves that have been born since then. So we see it moving into ninth wave territory, but that was certainly one of the first ones. The white lions of Timbavati in South Africa have been known about in indigenous mythology and cultures for many, many hundreds, if not thousands of years. So there have been stories built around their appearance that have been associated with beings from the stars. There's a huge mythology associated with them. The first one in modern history, in modern times, because they were deemed to have been hunted to extinction, But in 1977, there was the first white lion in its natural homeland, and Timbavati is also the only place in the world and on the whole continent of Africa where these mysterious animals have actually been born and appeared. We're not talking about hunting camps or being born in captivity. We're talking about naturally in their natural environment. So it's really quite fascinating. So being born in the wild, Timbavati is the place. And Liz can go, I've been there, I've seen them in their homeland. So in 1977, the first one was born. That was then hunted, and no more white lions were actually seen for a while until there was the reappearance of, there've been the odd murmurings of white lions in the wild in that area, in the wild in that area, but they always seem to perhaps it was a rumor, nobody could actually find them. Then in 2000, there was a white lioness who was actually born in a hunting camp at the same time that there was another male white lion that was actually spotted in the greater Timbavati area. He was apparently hunted ultimately. But the lioness that was born in captivity, Linda Tucker talks about it in her book, Saving the White Lions. It's such a beautiful, beautiful story. We got all goosebumpy. Yeah, Liz, I know. It's just stunning. So Linda speaks about it in her book and the rescue mission that she went on, which became part of the unfolding of her purpose and her contribution to the whole, is that she had to rescue this lioness from captivity. And by the way, for those of you that don't know, the lioness was actually born on the 25th of December at the turn of the millennium, 2000, in a place called Bethlehem in South Africa. So what more synchronicity could you actually wish for something that is totally sacred? And she had to restore this white lion, rescue it from the camp and restore her to a natural homeland in Timbavati so that the white lions could again become endemic to that area and be safe from being hunted because of what they represent for humanity. Because the legend has always associated them with the return, with a new era, with a new energy, but it was a warning for humanity as well. So it's a really interesting story associated with them, and since then there have been more and more lion with the white gene and white lions actually being born and seen in the wild and also living and being promulgated through Linda's work with her partner Jason and Timbavati. Just phenomenal, just phenomenal. But these are very significant and they have been marked. Also, the sacred python, the white python, is a totem or an emblem of one of the nearby tribes. So they work together with the lion people of those tribes that support and protect the Timbavati area, is that the nearby tribes have the white, I think it's the white crocodile and the white python as totems. So here we have this white animal theme, this white animal mythology. These animals are genetically different. They are leucistic and not albino. So what this is a different genetic configuration. Albino is a genetic disadvantage because the constitution, the internal constitution, tends to be slightly weaker. The sensitivity to the sun, etc., etc. There are elements that go with albinism that weaken the individual who manifests with albinism. With leucism, which is what these sacred white animals are, they are completely white. They are without pigmentation in their hair, but they do still have pigmentation because it is a different genetic manifestation. And what is so fascinating is that the albinos have always been recorded, and they have the pink eyes and the pink skin, which is exceptionally sensitive to sunlight, whereas the leucistic white animals do not have that same degree of sensitivity. Most of the leucistic white animals that have begun appearing in greater and greater numbers did so in association with this transitional change between the 8th and the 9th wave, and with the change between the solar and the cosmic influences. So we were saying the cosmic influences, the gamma rays, bring with them changing genetics and changing genetic aberrations or mutations. So the sacred white animals that have been appearing, the leucistic white animals, have been appearing in accordance with those cosmic changes and the shifting over of the waves. So there's a correlation here in respect of what they represent, and they were spoken about in ancient myths. So to me, that's also really fascinating time-wise. All of the animals are connected, the white sacred whites are connected with legends concerning the return of an age of harmony, as well as a warning for humans to change and transform. And these warnings are, you know, that the climate is changing. The warnings are that our actions are influencing the state of the planet, that we need to come more into harmony with nature. We need to return to our inherent aspects and levels of connectivity. All of the fifth wave stuff. So it's bridging the ninth and the fifth wave. Again, being able to utilize the complexity of our thinking and technology to help to restore the harmony within the world, because we connect with nature. Also, there's been a school of thought, and I just want to mention this, there is a school of thought which actually says that the sacred white animals, and especially the white lions, that the color of their skin and their hair is perfect camouflage for snowy winter conditions, that the emergence of the sacred whites all over the world are indicative of a coming shift in the global climate, which would involve more Arctic type conditions, because they would be more camouflage, which takes us back to the activities of the sun and the global cycles, and that the heating we're seeing now precedes an ice age. So I just wanted to throw that into the pot because I found that very, very interesting. There's almost a link up here. So it's like all of this fanatical stuff about climate change and heating up. It's kind of like, it's not a total picture. It is a fraction of the total picture. I'm glad you got your snow boots, Liz, because I don't. Got no snow boots. Okay, so other connections with these amazing animals. They have always been revered as emblems of royalty. So we see that in many Asian cultures, the temples that and the palaces that housed royalty, or the sovereigns, you know, those that were the leaders, actually had things like they had white peacocks, you know, wandering around the gardens, white elephants. No, certainly not in the Asian temples, but in English royalty, for instance, we know that I think it was Henry VIII actually set aside certain conservancies to protect the white stag because it was viewed as a royal emblem. And then we have the white lion, who's reviewed as an emblem of African royalty, and lion themselves. We see lions associated with kings in all of the statues all over the world. So the lion is almost like the apex predator that's associated with royalty the world over, even though it's associated with Africa as an animal. It's accepted as a motive the world over because of the strength that it actually embodies. And this concept of royalty takes us back to the whole ninth wave aspect of recovering and connecting with our own royalty and our own sovereignty, because sovereignty and royalty are almost two different terms of recognizing the same thing. So it's asking us, the influx or the increase and enhanced appearance of all of these white animals are asking us strongly to connect with our own sovereignty and to reconnect with the totality of the divine concepts of the whole of life, all of life. So it's really interesting, that association that's been in existence for hundreds of years. It is a call for us to step out of servitude and into our own sovereignty, and that does not just mean servitude to other people. It is servitude to our ego dreams, it is servitude to our beliefs. It's wherever we are driven by something that has been externally determined, or a program that has actually been instilled as a consequence of previous waves. So it brings us squarely into ninth wave territory. They are embodiments of higher consciousness because they represent surrender and vulnerability. Each one of these animals out there in their environments at the moment almost stands out because their natural camouflage in the environment that they're in doesn't exist. And yet they're appearing. And yet, for the most part, many of them are safe. You know, it was often viewed that the white lion, for instance, misunderstood that they would be weaker and would not survive in a natural environment because they would be seen as easy prey because they were not easily camouflaged. And that they were weaker than the other manifestations. Well, I'll tell you something, certainly with the lions, their body is stronger and they have been proven equally capable of hunting as a normal tawny lion, and they have much bigger, stronger bodies. They also have a presence within that body that is carried within that body that is unmistakable. So you've got the tawny lion, you've got the white lion, and it is almost like they are different species. They take this whole concept of sovereignty and royalty to a whole new level. So they're true ninth wave embodiments. But they have to, all of these white animals have to surrender to the fact that they are here on the planet. They represent a living embodiment of those concepts of surrender and vulnerability, and the fact that they can thrive within that space of vulnerability. They allow themselves to be vulnerable because they're completely transparent in the current environment. So those surrender and vulnerability are higher frequency, higher consciousness concepts. So just hold that in mind. They are also, and this was something that I always felt, because the ninth wave, which is a unification wave, represents unity consciousness. Something that I said before I discovered the 9 waves of creation was that the white animals are living embodiments of diamond consciousness. So by communicating with the sacred white animals and receiving their messages, we are able to connect in with and operate with, in harmony with the diamond consciousness in a much more refined way. And there we see, you know, sort of a lot of the animal communicators beginning to do this, although not specifically with the white animals and getting different messages. But some are. There are individuals who are being enamored by this and who understand this at a higher and deeper level. So they are absolute manifestations of the diamond frequencies of the 9th wave. So I don't know if you guys have got any more comments on this. So keep your eye open for those mentions of the sacred white animals, and bear in mind the message that they're actually bringing. And it would be wonderful to do some communication work with the animals, bringing in Ali, who also has a wonderful connection with them to teach us how we can connect and communicate with them in more powerful ways. But they are here to support our journey. They're here to support our alignment. This was the story and the legend of White Buffalo Calf Woman. When White Buffalo Calf Woman promised to return again, she made some prophecies at that time. One of those prophecies was that the birth of a white buffalo calf would be a sign that it would be near the time when she would return again to purify the world. What she meant by that was that she would bring back harmony again and balance spiritually. No matter what happens, Miracle was the name of the white buffalo calf that was born. So they named her Miracle because she was like the first one they'd ever seen. So it was like, and no matter what happens to Miracle in the coming months and years, Joseph Chasing Horse says that the birth is a sign from Great Spirit, and that the ensuing age of harmony and balance it represents cannot be revoked. And that's also what's said of the 9th wave, is that you can't turn it back. It's here. There is no going back. So all we can do, we can choose to move forward and to support the reharmonization. So that age of harmony and balance is absolutely 9th wave diamond consciousness. And it cannot be revoked. It's not going away. The only way that we can is forward. This is an excerpt from Carl Kalleman's book, which I just really enjoyed because it also places a context on the understanding of free will and the ninth wave. So it's re-examining the concept of free will. You guys might remember that I spoke about this in some of the earlier classes, and it raises the question is, do we really have free will as is taught? And most of those free will teachings are eighth wave teachings. So do we really have free will? And Carl said, yeah, at the ninth level, we can hardly talk about free will because if the ego plays no separate role and your actions are determined in resonance with all that is, we can't really talk about will as free. At this highest level, when we are fully in resonance with the ninth wave, our lives will not be about running separate individual agendas, but about fulfilling an aspect of the divine plan for humanity. So that is not, we have free will from the perspective of deciding to rest into and surrender into that alignment. Once we've surrendered, there's no more free will. There's no more choice in that respect that needs to be made because we've surrendered ego to the journey. There will no longer be a separate ego that acts only on the individual's behalf. Instead, it's we in a unity state of consciousness. We surrender to our higher selves. We act on behalf of the divine and its plan for humanity. The disappearance of the ego in the ninth wave may be appreciated by some, but not by others. And it won't be, because for those who are so invested in those paradigms, and that goes back to what I was saying earlier about people being invested in the narratives that they have built around the eighth wave concepts that they don't like to be corrected. How could we possibly arrive at a golden age of peace unless we all surrendered all agendas that are contrary to or not aligned with the divine plan? We have to. It is only if all our actions are informed by our contact with the divine, so that the largest possible view is taken into account, that all of our individual lives can ever be harmonized. Joy will then never come from your agenda of being separate, but from the harmony that is created with all that is. And that also recontextualizes or reconceptualizes the whole idea of joy. Because in the eighth wave language and the eighth wave terms, it's like find what makes you joyful. It's all about you. And it is about the ego. There's so much about the ego that's not even acknowledged or seen. Whereas there's a deep, abiding joy and contentment that comes from the reharmonization with all that is. How are we doing time-wise? Okay, almost done. So here I'm going to leave you with some keys to aligning with the ninth wave. And this, I'm going to ask you to process between now and when we actually have the session with Carl Kalleman on the 2nd of Feb, which will be fabulous. So just connect with these concepts and ideas to recognize that this is a long-term adjustment process. Therefore, practice patience. There is no magic wand. It doesn't exist. Let go of preconceived 7th or 8th wave ideals about purpose and mission, and allow yourself to simply be guided moment by moment. You can see all these people who get into such angst because they're looking for their purpose and they're looking for their mission and they can't find it or they can't identify it. When we let go of it, we become our mission. Like I said, our life is our mission. Our life is our purpose. And doing the highest expression of our life. The only way we can do that is in alignment with the divine. Practice conscious connection to your own inner source of guidance. That's it. And if you can't connect with it, keep asking, keep asking. Use whatever practices support you in balancing the left-right hemispheres of the brain, whether that be, hemi-sync, brain balancing, some of the mind gym exercises that help to balance the hemispheres of the brain, cross crawl, drawing figure eights, sort of all of those that balance the two sides of the body and will help to bridge the brain and balance. So that supports the waking up and the balancing of the left brain. Practice awareness of the impact of respective waves with detachment. So then you start looking out at the world, you can see that's 6th wave, that's 5th wave, that's 7th, that's 8th. And where some of the things I've been talking about might sound as if they're being very judgmental. It really is an understanding. When we detach from that, it's an understanding that every single wave has been necessary for what it has brought us. But it's the positive attributes and aspects of every wave that we need to harness and pull forward into the light of the ninth wave. Decide what you are committed to. Then set and hold your long-term vision for unity based on the potentialities of the ninth wave. So it's kind of understanding that you will be guided each and every moment of the way, because all of the potentials for the ninth wave exist within that wave. So your long-term vision is about the re-establishment of harmony in personal relationships, in whatever it might be. So really sit down and sit with that. Go, what do you stand for? What is it that you stand for in life? What are you committed to in your life? So what is your vision then? If that's what you stand for, what is your vision in life? And what does that unification mean for you? Because it will mean different things to different people. Spend time every day contemplating and connecting with this vision. Now, what we're going to do is a follow-up initiating exercise, perhaps create a vision board. We'll explore this deeper, but just get your mind starting to work with it. Find your point of calm within the external chaos, which is likely to continue. And it's likely to continue because the sixth wave is in a night until 2406. So it's in a night for another 400 years, almost. Okay, is the sixth wave. So that's not going to change, which means that the attributes of the sixth wave, all of the stuff that was built up during the previous day of the sixth wave is actually starting to break down. What makes it different is that under previous cycles of the sixth wave, there was no future wave or no interference, no other potential that existed other than to recreate with the knowledge and the holograms of the sixth wave. What we have now is, as the sixth wave is breaking down, as it's in a night, we have the capacities of the ninth, the positivity of the eighth, the unlimited potential, and we have the seventh wave, which goes into a day in 2031. So over the next couple of years, we have huge opportunity, the next decade, huge opportunity to bring about change, and also to then, from 2031, when the seventh wave comes into a day, we will be driving it forward. It'll be rapid implementation of all of the change. So it's almost like we're doing a lot of bridge building and foundation setting over the next decade. So it doesn't mean it's all going to be an absolute trudge. There's going to be a lot of positive mirroring that we're going to see as a consequence of this. Make time to do what makes your heart sing. This supports keeping the heart open and in the zone. Whatever that is, if you just get into the zone when you are practicing a bit of Pashui, or you are singing with the radio, or whatever it is, sort of dancing around when you're doing the vacuuming, whatever, doesn't matter. Whatever supports your heart and supports you in being in the zone, do that. And try and make time to do that. It's really important. Hugging a tree, whatever it might be. Recognize the divinely guided anarchy, which is the disorder, the dissidence, and confusion as a result of the wave interference patterns. So you might have missed this, but it's also important to understand that whenever the waves sort of almost bash up against one another, because there's so many running at the same time and you get this transition from night to day, you get these periods where the waves bash up, where it's like you're not sure whether to align with the preceding or the new wave. It creates chaos. And that is divine dissonance, divinely guided anarchy. It's like upsetting the apple cart so that we can then become aware of what's happening so that we can choose where we want our alignment to be. So it's bringing things to the surface to be broken down, healed, and brought back into wholeness. So it's almost stepping back from all the drama that is other people are getting caught up in. So recognize it. Become comfortable with not knowing. I like that one. So we just got a comment here. So finding the commitment is very difficult for me. Also, any goal setting. Oh, is that the commitment to making your heart sing? Yeah, yeah. That's it. That's but it's a true dedication to your heart. And what helps is it's letting go of control. Ultimately, it's letting go of all thoughts of control. Become comfortable with not knowing, being in a space of not knowing, and release attachment to outcomes. Hurdles will exist. However, the way forward is no longer blocked. We may perceive it as being blocked because there are hurdles and challenges. It is not blocked. It is simply waiting for us to bring down the solution and make our way through the hurdle. It could be challenging until 2031, and this is when 7, 8, and 9 all converge in a day mode, and then we get real thrusts forward. Stabilization will only likely occur within the next decade, the 2030s. Seek to share your understanding of the ninth wave principles with individuals born into the eighth and the ninth wave. So that's after 1999 and then after 2011. So in that period, people will be more receptive generally to the understanding of the principles of the ninth wave. These are the people who will ultimately shape world events. They are our children and grandchildren for the most part. Educate. So wherever you and however you can find a way to sow the seeds and pass that information on, that the world is changing will be hugely valuable. Be prepared, and this is an interesting one. Be prepared to take political action where necessary. And this is Andrew Harvey and his sacred activism principles. Thoughts alone do not change the world or ourselves. It is our actions that do. And that includes political action, because there is still the practice of governance through political parties and political figureheads. Our action to change the way that political control system works is going to be vitally important. So it's not a case of turning our back on what is happening. It's not being caught up in the drama and taking political action where it is actually deemed necessary. And this is also something that you might want to sit with your journal. Identify a project that is unique to your own talents and that expresses the attributes and qualities of the ninth wave, actions that are expressions of the service to all. And by project, that could be a relationship, an external activity, a social intervention, a new creation, bringing something new into the world, something that is unique to your specific talents. And you have a look at how the ninth wave concepts and principles and actions can be woven into that particular project, because everything that we do that is in support of that alignment makes a difference to the collective field, and it connects us more deeply and strongly with the resonance. So that gives you perhaps something to focus on, and it may be also that you start with the project, and then from that project you begin to establish and connect with a greater vision. So start with that and begin to identify. So what we'll do with the Master's Journey as we take it forward, we will also expand that concept and drill down into more useful, practical activities that are going to support us. So journaling as an additional practice. So you've got quite a lot of ideas here. What are you willing to let go of in order to shift your alignment to the ninth wave? And that includes beliefs, ideals, behaviors, thoughts, emotions, communities, and relationships. So you might even want to just start journaling it. You don't want to try letting go of everything all at once, because that might leave you in a space that doesn't feel safe. You need to test this by doing one at a time. So you don't want to totally disarm the ego self by doing too much at once. Then it becomes perceived as a trauma and causes the ego to contract again and hold everything in place. So choose, sort of one or two things that you are willing to let go of. The thought of control, sort of the fear that perhaps comes up when you think about letting go of control of your diary or control of something. Okay, so really examine that, identify it, and make that a commitment to yourself, because that becomes part of your commitment. What risks are you prepared to take in order to allow the ninth wave frequencies and divine plan to unfold through you? So it doesn't have to be big things. You know, we see the word risk and we automatically think something, you know, like really big or scary, and sometimes it might be scary. We all need to step over that threshold and enable or facilitate those frequencies to begin unfolding within. So what are the risks that you are prepared to take? And just start where you're at. It doesn't need, that's what I mean, it doesn't have to be anything too big, but start where you're at. And that could just be a change in routine that goes along with your commitment to let go of something. Deeply examine the fears that exist in the I can't because. So when you hear your inner voice going, no, you can't do that. I can't do that because. Or yes, but. And you challenge it. What are the fears that exist in those words? I can't because, or the yes, but. And what are you prepared to do that is brave? Every small step counts. It doesn't have to be huge, but take those small steps. Utilize the ninth wave calendar to adjust your energies and cycles to the ninth wave. Now, where we are at the moment, I think we are on day 16 of the night of the ninth wave. So in 2 days' time, on the 20th of January, we come out and we start a brand new day of the ninth wave. And that is an opportunity to move ahead. So you might want to use this time to be introspective, then sort of the rest of today and tomorrow, if you have any time, or tomorrow, and prepare for what it is that you are considering letting go of or committing to in respective resonance, because the upward movement of the ninth wave from the 20th back into a day for the next 18 days gives you the opportunity for stronger alignment and moving ahead with whatever you've chosen. I don't know if I've sent you guys a link to the ninth wave calendar. So if I haven't, I'll include it again on the email that goes out so that you guys can connect in with the ninth wave calendar and just monitor the cycles. And also just monitor how you feel. Because bearing in mind what you guys were saying earlier, this has been a really intense week. Been a lot of down, some sadness. We've actually been in the 18-day downward cycle of the ninth wave. We've been in a ninth wave night. And the nights are always about clearing. Okay, so there's that, and then continue to identify and heal all areas of separation from source. It's part of our ongoing work in progress. So just use your journal and begin to chart and monitor and manage. So there we have the ninth wave, and I think it's not too bad, sort of just over 2 hours. I'm sure you guys are all ready for supper in the UK. You'll get the slides. I'll get these out, if not today, then tomorrow. So I can unmute you. And I just love this image. I think I've used it before because it's such a beautiful analogy that it's kind of, look at this, the sun that's actually shining, and it's a white sun. It's like the diamond sun, but it's the oyster and the pearl. That we're moving into a time of a new sun, of a new dawn. But that new dawn is really possible because of all of the irritations that we've been through that have fueled our growth and actually helped us to realize the pearl within, helped us to realize the diamond within. So I've unmuted you guys. I don't know if there's anything you would like to share, and I just want to say thank you for staying with us through some of these extensive classes. How was that? Does that give you a deeper appreciation for yourself, for the journey, and for the understanding of where we're going?
Yes, yes. I don't know how I got here.
And you did, and how wonderful. That's the magic. That's the perfection. You kind of go, gosh, how did this happen? Yeah.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the perfection.
Hmm.
And the magic of it.
And I'm glad I'm here. even though it's been, up and down and up and down, and
Yeah.
my whole life,
Yep.
I had to stay in the shit for a long time before I realized I could get out of it,
Yeah. Yeah, and look at this. Yeah, look at the analogy of the oyster and the pearl. The
Yeah.
pearl is from sands, grains of sand irritating the inside. So it's kind of like all of those things were irritating the inside and getting the internal pearl, the internal
Yes.
polishing it, so that you could access that pearl. So well done, Mary. You're here. You're here.
Yes, and I'm
Yeah.
very grateful.
Diamonds, absolutely. So anything else that you guys would like to share before we close off for this one?
Let's see.
Have you got some insights that you can take away? If not, then I look forward to seeing you on the 2nd.
I'd like to talk about the white animals.
Yeah.
Well, the polar bear showed up in my life big time. I had 2 beautiful episodes. The second one, he just walked through me and left his whole fur and his head and everything. He's not. Can I consider him a sacred white animal?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm in this area where we have very cold weather. I already feel like all my life I've been in a cold snap, you might say. I mean, like today it's going to be 20 below with the wind chill. I mean, we have a wood stove now, because we moved, and so we're so much more comfortable now.
Yeah.
And now I know why the white bear showed up. I came back into this area because my whole being loves it here, even though this is where it was abused so much. But this is where I healed also. Nature, everything. I always wanted to know where the Big Dipper was everywhere I moved in my life.
Yeah.
And I couldn't understand why until, I painted it, and then the bear showed up. I didn't realize that it was part of the bear constellation.
Oh, isn't that lovely? Yeah. There's another thing there as well, Mary, is that the white polar bear is the apex predator in his environment.
Yes, yeah. And
So,
he's...
Yeah, so he represents the pinnacle and the achievement and the management of his ecosystem. That's why he's actually so important. Yeah.
Yeah, and plus a lot of, like Inuits and those natives that live, so close to the North Pole. The shamans, the polar bear is what comes to a shaman when he does his walkabouts or,
Yes.
his dream walking.
Yeah.
So I feel privileged that the polar bear showed up for me,
Because you are inherently a shaman. We've been through those life forms.
Yes.
And being shaman. So this is it's elevating the concept of shamanism to transformation.
Yes.
At the 9th wave level. So the concept of shamanism comes from the 5th wave.
Oh, okay.
So that's the 5th wave. It's all of your indigenous people. So what we're doing is we're elevating it now to a 9th wave understanding of transformation. So instead of needing to go to a shaman within the tribe, that we can actually begin to do the transformation ourselves. So we become our own shaman.
Yes, yeah, that's what I'm working on.
That's an important totem that you got. And it's beautiful. So there you got that one. And for me, the big thing that resonates with me is the white lion.
Yes, yeah. You got their fur too. I remember you sharing that the lion put its fur on your shoulders.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly the first time I visited. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really powerful insights. It takes us further on the journey. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that, Mary. Yeah,
Okay.
Liz, I know you need to catch up with some of the other classes.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you found sort of useful within this? Bearing in mind you've missed out on the middle chunk.
I think there's lots of confirmation in there about the letting go.
Yes.
The heart stuff is very in there.
Yeah.
I've done a massive integration this week, which is I feel as if I've got my big girl pants on instead of the little girl pants.
Good for you. Well done.
So I don't think it's any coincidence that I've caught the first one and the last one. Yeah, I think it was meant to be for this one.
Yeah.
On a very, very lighter note, I had to laugh about the manifestation,
Yes.
on the law of attraction. Because years ago, I used to write an article called The Cosmic Kitchen about be careful what you ask for. The universe has got a bizarre sense of humour. But this week, we just happened on the day, the 16th of January, evidently is earmarked as the one day of the year where the most motor traffic accidents will happen.
Wow, how weird is that?
Yeah. So, and on that day, my daughter-in-law wrote her car off.
Oh.
So, and it couldn't be moved. She was okay, but the car has died.
Jeez.
And so we were looking to find a static tow bar, just to get the car back.
Yeah.
And I just had to laugh because the house opposite me, the next day, was a big tow bar company fitting a tow bar. And I thought, well, I didn't actually order that, but it just struck my sense of humour.
Yeah.
But you know what? That's being in the flow. It's almost like you're not attached to it. There it is.
Yeah.
I know. And I think I know, it would tickle your funny bone.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and bones are really big time at the moment.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, that I think is like, oh, okay, there's another awareness is just to start noting down, because I've also noticed joints and bones significantly just this week. And that, wherever you have that statistic about the 16th of January, I would love to see it, because I saw a client yesterday who actually had an accident the day before.
Oh, right. Well, I did, because I just messaged my niece and said, oh, Jen's had an accident. And she said, oh, I read somewhere this morning that today was the day, and then I managed to find it. I'll see if I can find it.
Please do. Yeah, that is just mind-blowing. Mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, ladies.
And whether it's synchronistic or not, this morning I woke up with a plan, which I've Facebook messaged you, Julie, to do.
Oh, okay.
It may be right or not right. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Vision.
Right, Mary.
Yeah.
I'm going to go.
Yeah. Onwards and upwards. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
For
thank you, ladies, so much. Thank you. Thanks so much for being here. It's
my pleasure.
It's my pleasure too. It's an absolute honor. Love it. Look forward to the next time that we'll actually be connecting. And have a lovely evening. Have a lovely day further. And yes, look forward to seeing you on the 2nd. But I will be sending you some additional links after this one. Okay. So
bye.
Lots of love. God bless. Bye. I've got to get the... Oh, there we go.